welcome back to 8 Days of the Witcher. This is day number 2, and the title of this episode is Kaer Morhen. Forgive my pronunciation if that's way off.
I was
This
going
is
to let you go
Sean.
for that one. And this is Chris.
Once again, we are Dad in Iraq. We do a lot of after shows. We've done Ted Lasso, WandaVision, all kinds of stuff in the past. This is our first binge watch here with The Witcher Season 2. Everything dropped on Friday, December the 17th, and we are taking one episode per day for 8 straight days to talk about this new season.
There we go.
But yeah, today is day 2.
Day 2. And if you guys enjoy this type of stuff, be sure to go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that little bell to make sure you get notified when we drop these daily. And be sure to go ahead and comment, let us know what you think. But let's go on to day number 2. What's going on here?
Well, a little behind the scenes, when Chris and I were conceptualizing how we were going to do this thing, it's kind of tough to do 8 straight days of content and our normal, 45 minutes plus, sometimes over an hour of talking about a TV show. To do that for 8 straight days in a row during the holidays, no less, was a little cumbersome. So we were like, if we do this, let's just focus on one story point per episode. So that way we can kind of keep these videos a little bit shorter, 15 to 20 minutes. So that's what the intention is. So that's why, like last episode, we kind of skipped a lot of the Yennifer adventures just to talk about Gerald and Cirilla. So this episode, we're going to focus back on Yennifer and see what she's been up to.
There we go. So let's look at it. Dude, it started weird. I mean, it started with Yennifer and Gerald, and she's pregnant. And we know she can't become pregnant.
Right.
I mean, I think she's looking for some type of like spell or, herb or something that can, reverse that. And so she could be. But yeah, seeing her pregnant was kind of was jolting.
It was, yeah. I mean, it turns out it's just another dream. I guess it's tough to in these these fantasy shows if they're dreams or visions or like if the dreams mean anything. It seems like every single dream means something in these shows. But as far as the last episode goes, she's alive for one. She's not dead on the battlefield. She woke up in the woods and she was captured by Fringilla and a few of the same men that Fringilla was with. I had a tough time remembering, though. I remember Fringilla and Yennifer were friends of the sorceress group, right? And it was Fringilla that turned coat over to this other army, right? The same army.
She was sent to that city of
Sintra?
Sintra was where
that's where Cirilla's from. That's the one that burned down.
Oh man, yeah. She was sent to the other city, and she was basically their mage.
Right.
And that's what wound up happening. And that's kind of what changed her opinion and everything towards Nilfgaard. There it is.
Yeah.
She went to Nilfgaard and she became their mage. And I guess she was indoctrinated with, I guess
with the belief system of kind of taking over this white thing.
White flame. Okay.
Yeah, the white flame. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's really what happened. And then when that took place, they grew apart. And Yennifer was like, yeah, no. I mean, I'm not joining this cult, essentially. I mean, it's never said that way, but it's kind of felt that way.
Yeah. And Fringilla. It's tough to get these fantasy names straight in my mind sometimes. Fringilla, she's with a few of the pack of these guys from Niflheim or whatever, and they're kind of licking their wounds a little bit. I mean, they got tossed on the battlefield.
They got beat, and they got beat bad after Yennifer unleashed that chaos magic in the fire.
Yeah,
which apparently isn't something they're even allowed to do. But she reached out and she just blew them away. And apparently, from this conversation when this took place, if we find out there's a 4-day gap in between where season 1 ended and where we are now, because she Tessa basically said, you gave us 4 days for our army to show up. You're the reason we won this battle.
Right. Yeah. And that's a little bit later, in the episode. But Yennifer, she's basically with Fringilla now. At the end of the last episode, they were attacked by some mysterious party in the woods. I mean, the men that she was with died basically instantaneously.
Well, sniper fire, just with arrows.
Yeah, and we were left as a cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 with both Yennifer and Fringilla not knowing who was after them, and we find out at the beginning of this episode that they've been captured by elves.
A lot of them too. I mean, they're in numbers.
Yeah,
they wake up and they're chained. Now Fringilla is chained with Yennifer. The irony there.
Yeah.
But they were to a tree, and it's
And
like, what do we do now? And they see them singing songs, and they're just, and I think at this point as well, we find out because one comes over and she mentions, no, I think we're jumping forward because they took them actually to that, they're like their head. It's not a queen. I'm not sure exactly what her actual role is. Like
she's like some
within,
sort of sorceress, like elven sorceress. So yeah, so Fringilla and Yennefer are both captives now of these elves, and we find out a little bit that they were having nightmares. We actually watch, and you were mentioning this earlier, Yennefer's nightmare, where she has a baby with Gerald, but then the baby like is set aflame, and she sees this vision of this person in red robes.
Red Robes, yeah.
It's a big time nightmare. She wakes up to find out she's been captive. And Fringilla, she's having a nightmare too about somebody in black robes.
Yeah, it's something about the basement or something like that. This person rescued him from the basement or whatever it
Yeah.
was prior. Yeah, so I mean
So
they got that going on.
these two talk, and they kind of decide that they're having very similar dreams, and they just kind of make a note of that, like, huh, that's strange. Bad omens here. But yeah, they're tied to a tree, and we see one of the head elves here is actually an elf that we met in the previous season 1, when the elves captured Geralt and the Bard. They eventually let him go, of course, but it was like an elven king, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And they were wondering why he wasn't in charge. He said he basically gave it up to her so she
Hmm.
can lead their people to like a sanctuary essentially, to home because they don't have home right now. Right now they're just kind of wandering. They're sleeping in the forest. They're
Right.
doing whatever they can do to get by. So
Yeah.
they're at this location and they're digging for something. And they're
Right.
digging and digging and digging. And this is when Yennefer and Fringilla kind of find their end. You're like, you know what? We're having these dreams. What if we're the key to what
Right.
you're looking for? And you can see it setting in on him. He's like, you know what? It's all making sense to him. And then he hears, we found something. And he's like, oh, so close. So close. You almost had me.
Yeah. The elves are very distrusting of humans as a whole. So, at some point he was debating just on killing them, but he brings them back to this elven sorceress as a prize, basically, as captives, as hostages. Um, because at this point he assumes that they're both, full of magic, especially Yennefer, who she's getting a reputation now of being a hero, this big powerful hero. But because she's been cuffed, and because of other reasons, she hasn't been using her magic since then. I guess we'll find out a little bit more about that. But yeah, Yennefer overhears a conversation between this former elven king and this elven sorceress about the dreams that she's been having. And apparently she's been dreaming of somebody in white robes,
A white robe,
somebody,
yeah.
yeah, somebody that that she assumes is like this old elven goddess, somebody that like an ancient or something
Is it
they've prayed to in the past.
Ithlia?
Yeah, something along those lines. So she thinks she's like a prophet, where she's like getting these dreams, and I think that's why all the elves have kind of swarmed to her as a leader, because she's getting these dreams of this old ancestor, this powerful ancient. So but something else is going on here with these robed figures in these dreams.
Yeah, they're all it's all specific to the person.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's having the dream, and then basically, when they're dreaming, they're seeing something that is meant for them directly. Even then, we'll see a little further down the road when they all wind up in one spot and they're all having the dream basically together,
Right.
and it's all, like I said, all tailored to them,
Yeah.
and it's getting it's pretty intense in some of the scenes.
It is intense. So that's kind of where we're at here. We're in the middle of the woods. The elves are kind of wondering what to do. They've been digging in the same spot. We've got the elven sorceress who's kind of in power here, and Yennefer and Fringilla are captive. And we are Daddenrock. If you guys don't know us yet, check us out on YouTube. Check out daddenrock.com. We do this each and pretty much every week. We've been pretty consistent here.
Okay.
We're doing the 8 Days of Witcher right now, and after that, we're going to be doing the Book of Boba Fett come towards the end of the month after Christmas. So yeah, definitely check daddenrock.com to find out more. But yeah, so basically Fringilla and Yennefer, they convince well, first, I don't know how they convinced the sorceress to like just keep them alive to begin with. That was pretty tricksy. But when did they take them down? Eventually, the sorceress kind of leads them down to this chamber.
Well, it's basically when they said they found something,
Yeah,
and then he brought them with him. And when they were looking at it, then they're both standing there, and then it opens, and then they wind up walking down. You see Yennefer kind of looking up at the hieroglyphics, and she's reading them as they're going. She knows the meaning, which it's telling me like I didn't remember a whole lot of about her being an elf. So there's
I didn't
more
either.
to her being an elf than we really know. So
Yeah,
she's able to understand, but they're saying, when's the last time you sung the songs, or when's the last time you mourned, an elf dying, or something as that. So they're calling her on it
yeah.
and
Just
saying,
because she knows the language doesn't mean she's of elven,
yeah,
heritage.
exactly. She hasn't lived a life of an elf.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, they're walking down, and dude, if I was sitting there, all of a sudden that thing opens, uh, I don't think I want to go in. I don't care how powerful I am. No, sorry guys, I'm gonna take my wine outside. Uh,
Something's definitely drawing them down there, right? It's like, oh, the three people I've been waiting for are here. Time to open up the door. That kind of thing.
Well, they even asked, do I have a choice to go down to your little, well, how'd you put it? Uh
I don't know.
I don't know. It was some weird like your little tomb or your prayer circle or
Yeah.
however. And they're like, yeah, no. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going.
Yeah, and they go down, and all of a sudden they find themselves. That's where this episode it starts to get a little freaky deaky, where you're not quite sure what's going on because essentially they start out there like in a cave or some sort of like underground thing. It looks like this deep dank basement, and then this tomb opens up for them to walk down a flight of
Yeah.
steps to go even lower. But then when we rejoin them, they're like walking through these dark woods, which is very strange. You'd think
Was
they'd
it a
be like,
portal to like
yeah.
outside somewhere? Or I mean, that wouldn't shock me because the way it ends will kind of lead to that. Like they were out, or did they walk in? I would say walk in and all of a sudden like be
Was it
under
an
some type of
illusion brought on by we learn later it's some sort of a witch that's maybe making an illusion or something, to kinda trick them. Yeah, because they start walking and this prophesized hut with no doors that they talked about earlier in the
yeah.
episode appears. And, I mean, they've gone
And
too
that
far at
one
this point. They
Yeah,
have
and
to
that
go
one
in.
sorcerer says a couple things, and it freaks out, it hops up, it turns around, and it's ready to go.
Yeah. And the 3 of them start seeing basically, it seems to be the same entity that they're talking to, but that's taken the form of, 3 different forms, one in white robes, one in red robes, one in black robes.
And they all drop the robe. So Yennefer in the red robe,
Yeah.
it's just girl
Yeah.
talking to her. And I don't know if there was really any significance to the girl because Jennifer didn't even actually respond to her.
Right.
Basically said, you just can't scare me, which is
Yeah.
pretty badass if you think about it. In that situation,
Yeah.
you dropping that line, I'm like, okay, okay. I'm gonna try to scare you now.
Yeah, Yennefer's a little rock and roll. She's a little, headstrong, like, nobody's gonna get the better of me, and she keeps that attitude in episode 3 too,
For a
uh,
lot of it until she gets freaked when she gets mad because the whole the rock and like the twig,
yeah.
and then that one little girl is telling her, come on little piggy, calling her, taunting her,
Yeah.
and she can't do it.
I think, yeah, this red robe figure is basically confirming to Yennefer her fears that she's completely lost her powers since dipping into the chaos magic last season, and I think we get confirmation of that a little bit later. But yeah, that's what this entity is doing. It's basically like confirming fears and really kind of stressing out all 3 of these figures. Even the elven sorceress, who was like, she basically denies her. Like, you're not the ancient elven figure that I thought you were. You're something else. And I don't know. It gets a little. That's the one thing about The Witcher is that when it jumps from scene to scene, sometimes there's a leap of time that you kind of have to just like know that there's been a leap of time.
Just
There's a
kind of
lot
let
of
it go and work with it.
yeah, there's a lot of non-linear storytelling. Not quite as bad as last
Oh
year.
no, season one was, if you didn't give me a heads up in season one, I'd have been lost.
Yeah, because that was timey-wimey all over the place. This is a little bit more linear, but still, sometimes they take little hops in logic where you have to kind of catch up between scenes. Um,
Well, this is where we see Fringilla. She's also talking to an once the black robe drops, it's a man in armor. Once
yeah,
again, we kind of talked about that a little earlier, where she's seeing a guy that rescued her from the basement. and he's playing to that faith part in her because she is a really faith-driven character.
Yeah.
And basically her faith is telling her that maybe she should align with these elves.
Right.
So it's trying to tell her to do that because that would be the way for essentially for her to regain a lot of power that she lost when they got their butts kicked.
Yeah, it seems like this witch is doing a couple of things for all three of these ladies. Like, she seems to be putting the elven sorceress and Fringilla together, like Fringilla's army and the elves together, because she convinces both of them they both have to like go with each other. And then Yennefer is something separate entirely, where she's basically just kind of taunting her and saying that she's
Well,
lost her magic.
I
And
think there's more to the taunting part with Yennefer.
mm.
I think there's because I think that robed figure in red is representing chaos.
Oh yeah, okay.
And with her representing chaos, she knew she just used it, but she's got to regain it to be able to, move forward.
Yeah.
And now that she can't do it, she knows she can't do it. So what steps or what does she need to do to proceed to go ahead and regain that power that she once had?
And the next thing that we know, Yennefer, she wakes up in the middle of the woods. It's the middle of the day. Everything looks calm and peaceful. Frigilla happens to walk up on her. Her and her army are just kind of waltzing through the woods there, and everything looks fine, which kind of throws you off as a viewer. You're
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, what just happened?" The last time I thought is that Yennefer was like held captive by this witch, or this witch was going to draw power from her, that kind of thing. But no, she just wakes up in the woods. It seems like the witch has let her go. And Fringilla says as much. She's like, if she was so evil, why'd she let you go? And now I'm on a new mission to kind of join up with these elves.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see what they were talking about here.
There you are. It's all right.
He saw her too.
Don't worry, you're free.
You're going with them?
Francesca claims that the old gods want an alliance between the elves and Nilfgaard. I agreed.
Then you're both fools. You know that evil witch is no god.
I know, but my faith brought me this far.
Yeah, I mean, she's huge into her faith. I know my faith has brought me this far. But did you also notice the turn in the relationship? It didn't seem icy at that point. Like Fringilla was also being softer to Yennefer. Now Yennefer is still she got her walls up.
She does, yeah.
But Yennefer and Fringilla's relationship, I don't know if that's something that can be fixed. Based on future episodes, and maybe I don't know.
Yeah, maybe shifting alliances here. It's a little early to tell, I think, but the possibilities out there for sure.
But yeah, that's she woke in the woods, but after that, she splits ways. Fringilla goes one way with the elven army, and Yennefer goes the opposite direction, and she's running it. And she's got her hands free now, and she's trying to use her magic again, open a portal to, teleport somewhere, and she can't do it. And she's
stressed.
She's stressed, and she starts screaming.
Yeah,
and that's where we find out that her powers. I didn't know if in the dream or when she was in that cabin when she couldn't levitate the rock,
right?
If that was just a dream, or if that was like reality now, then that she could not actually access the power that she had. When at the end of the episode, when she's running through the forest, that when it confirms that at that point she can't do anything.
Yeah, and we're skipping ahead a little bit because this is basically where episode 2 ends with Yennefer. But Yennefer does find her way back to her mentor, Tissaia, back with the other sorceresses. And Tissaia, you get the feeling that Tissaia knew as soon as she saw Yennefer that she no longer had her powers.
Oh, she knew, yeah, because it
she
took
knew
her a
right
month.
away.
Yeah, she said it took her a month to get back to her, but I think that those two are connected some other level than just mentor mentee type setup.
It was kind of like when a parent knows that there's something wrong with their kid. Their kid doesn't need to even say anything; they just know something's up.
Yeah, she calls her out too on it.
Yeah.
She said she lets her know, your power isn't you weren't happy with your power,
right?
Types, but one of those, mother daughter type conversations, father son conversations. You weren't happy with it, So
very interesting here so far with season 2 with the student, mentor, parent, child relationships here.
we're seeing it in all storylines.
Yeah, we are on both sides for sure. So that's going to end it for Yennefer's story here in episode 2. We'll move on to day 3 tomorrow. Be sure to join us for that. We'll catch up with Gerald and Cirilla, of course, back at the Witcher HQ.
That's funny.
But yeah, join us here with the 8 Days of Witcher. We're basically going through season 2 of The Witcher on Netflix, one day at a time here for all 8 days, all 8 episodes. We're going to be here back tomorrow for day number 3. And yeah, be sure to check out thatandrock.com if you haven't already. Check out our YouTube page. We have a ton of content on there. I know there's fans out there of Ted Lasso, of all the Marvel shows that they've done thus far. We've done a ton of coverage on all that stuff, so be sure to check it out.
Yeah, and if you haven't done it already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell that lets you know when we do go live. But until we see you next time, what do you say, Sean?
Toss a coin to your Witcher.